What the fuck can we like calibrate here? What is popping? Like I could not tell you, really could not tell you outside of the hip hop world what the fuck is popping in my city except that the Kid Trinata got a dance album. And I'm like, wait, is
Oh,
it even
K
dance?
Tronada is fire. Love K Tronada. Look, what I think that something that really blew the game open was when ASAP Rocky came out, and that's because this is a kid from Harlem who was obsessed with Dirty South chopped and screwed music. Had
Yes,
had a grill like he's from fucking Houston, pouring up
yes,
lean. You feel me? And
yes,
low key also influenced by like Bone Thugs and Harmony and all this other like hip shit from other regions, and that no one ever associated with New York, and kind of
yes.
brought that. But while he did that, still had the most New York vibe ever. You
Yeah,
feel me? Like
I
on
remember
some
being blown
Harlem fashion
away.
shit.
I remember being blown away when I first saw Rocky's first, like the peso, because it was like seeing him in the video. Like I was like, "Yo, bro, this sounds like Texas," but
Right.
what I'm seeing and how he's dressing is like
The most New
Cali.
York shit
It's like
ever.
nah, it was no. The way he was dressing in that video was like very Cali to me,
Right.
right?
No,
Like
true, true, true,
his outfit
true.
looked really, really Cali, you know.
For
And
sure.
then, but and he was riding in the basket of like the bike, which is like not a typical New York thing, you know what I mean?
Right.
Which is something that I think I associate more with Cali for some weird reason,
Absolutely.
right? But then on top of that, but then I see his background, and it's like, but that's a bodega,
Right.
but that's New York, like, and I'm just like this. It was the beginning of the mashing of all these different regions at the same time. Like I think Kendrick kind of had a little bit of that too, like that sensibility where it was like sonically he sounded like kind of like Bone Thugs, you know, Midwest flow, but like with
Right.
like an East Coast lyrical sensibility, but like clearly a West Coast cat with like what he's talking about and everything that he's talking on. You know, like
One
that
thousand
era.
percent. 1,000%. You know what I mean? Like that to me is no, it's a good assessment. And I feel like when you start playing with those things, but still maintain your own identity, because he never like, although he was influenced by all this other shit, he was still Harlem to the core. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like even using other regions as a fashion accessory is a very Harlem thing to do in and of itself. You know what I mean? Being so fashion forward like they are in Uptown. So like that's kind of like what I've always done, like with my New York influence, with my Houston influence, Bay Area influence, but it's still LA as fuck at the end of the day. And I think it's fun to play with those things, but there's just like how there's so many different ways to express your individuality and put on for your section. Wow,
Mm,
like like if I spent a week in Montreal, and I was there before, but if I did that, I'd for sure be able to make a record that personified that vibe very easily,
Mm-hmm.
and still have my own Cali identity in doing so.
interesting. No, that's like that's the kind of shit more people need to think about, especially like in a numbers focused era where branding is almost secondary to the performance of a CTR or whatever, right? Like people don't see the more like artistic elements that go into this kind of branding. Like you're able to look at stuff and quantify it into what makes things dope rather than there's this percentage of this that's and a lot of us aren't able to necessarily see it like that. So to hear you break it down with such eloquence and just how you pocket things into the almost like a deeper level of looking at the data of the world, it's so interesting.
Word, no, I appreciate you, and I feel like you got that in you as well. But that's
Yeah.
just like that. th- That's what I choose to. It's what I choose to emphasize. Like all I care about is besides family. I love my family. I love my fiance. I love my homies. But I love culture, art, pop culture. You know what I mean? Like music. That's all I care about. All this other shit is whatever to me. And I use like I feel like a lot of the things that I'm educated in is strictly so I can have a frame of reference when discussing it in an artistic or creative context. Like, but I genuinely don't care about it otherwise. Like, you know, like I don't care about politics, but now I'm informed about it enough so I could absorb references that fucking Chuck D's making or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only reason why I even
Absolutely
care
not.
about
Yeah.
it.
I mean,